So here we have a comment by Dr. Champa 5719 saying, "Can you tell me the configuration, my friend? Because I also want to build a PC within 2 weeks." Well, my friend, I got you covered. What is up, guys? How you doing? It's your boy K6 Creativity once again, back with yet another video. And in today's video, I'm going to be telling you exactly what I configured in my PC, but also exactly the components that you need in order to get yourself a custom video editing PC for your work. Now, a custom PC comprises of a processor, a RAM, the GPU, cooling system, the case, the motherboard, storage, and the power supply. Now, building it can cost you anywhere from $800 to what you have in the bank. I mean, there are some people who have computers that are above $1,500, $1,300. You can get yourself components with different prices and build yourself a custom PC. Now, the problem is you do not have an actual price when coming to building an editing PC, because price tend to vary on where you buy the stuff, on which kind of brand you pick, and also some components like the graphics card tends to be in the hands of other people who take them from the manufacturer and then they put them in on eBay on a higher price, which makes it the price a little bit unrealistic from the manufacturer's prices, because something like the graphics card, it's very hard to get your hands on it, especially a good graphics card. And so especially during the time of the pandemic, it was extreme, but the future is bright. I hope so. My editing PC cost me around $2,000, and I said that in the unboxing video. If you haven't seen that, go check it out. It's on the card that's popping up right now, right there on the corner. Go check it out, but after this video. First thing you need is the processor. Now, the processor is like the brain of le computer, and there are two main manufacturers of the processors, which is Intel and AMD. And if you are talking about the blue processors, which are named after core, like Core 3, Core 5, Core 7, and Core 9, those are Intel processors. And if you are talking about Ryzen 5, Ryzen 7, Ryzen 9, those you're talking about the AMD processors. Now, the difference is for video editing, many people say that Intel processors are the best because they are very good at multitasking, because they tend to have many cores inside them. Like, you have one processor but it has multiple cores inside. Some have 4 cores, some have 6 cores, some have 30 something cores, it goes up and up and up. The AMD processors are very good at, if you are doing gaming, if you are doing 3D animations with softwares like Blender and stuff, they say that they are very good. But you try to pick your best between AMD and Intel. I got the Intel processor, and it's a Core i7, the 10th generation. Now, if you have a low budget, I recommend don't go below Core i5, because Core i3 can still do video editing, but it's very slow. You'll do video editing, but you'll be slamming on your desk all the time. Get at least a Core i5. My sweet spot is like the Core i7, and if you want to go overboard, get yourself the Core i9. But if you are not doing heavy video editing, like you're not going beyond 4K and you're not doing extreme visuals, you do not really need the Core i9, because most of the time it won't be doing that much. So just get yourself a Core i7, which will. And one thing that you need to make sure you get the generation that is closest to the latest generation. Currently we are on the 13th gen. I took the Core i7 10th generation, and you can see the numbers from how it's written. When it's in thousands, 3,000 something, 4,000 something, that is the 3rd generation, the 4th generation, the 5th, the 6th, it goes like that. If you see it's 10,000 and something, that is the 10th generation, 11,000, 12,000. You get the point. Make sure you get the generation that is closest to the latest, because those are the processors that are more fast and more efficient. The second component is your RAM, or random access memory. 2 gigabytes, 4 gigabytes, 8 gigabytes, 16 gigabytes, 32 gigabytes, 64 gigabytes, and you have 128 gigabytes. Now, many software require you to have at least 8 gigabytes of RAM. If you have 16 gigabytes of RAM is even better, but I recommend, if you have the money, buy buy 32 gigabytes of RAM, but make sure if you are buying multiple sticks, they need to be equal. Don't get a 16 gigabytes of RAM with an 8 gigabytes of RAM and then another 8 gigabytes of RAM. You will blow your computer. If you want to make it 32 gigabytes of RAM, get two sticks of 16 gigabytes of RAM. Now, some people, if you have the money, they might want to put like 64 gigabytes of RAM or 128 gigabytes. Like, that is a killer. Like, most of the time, you won't be needing that much power in your PC when you are doing video editing. But if you have the money and you just want to have a PC that is undisputed, go ahead. The next thing is the motherboard. Now, there are many brands of motherboard, like you can choose from ASUS, you can choose from MSI, and all these motherboards, they tend to have different sizes of the motherboard. But the Mini ATX is the smallest motherboard, and you got the Micro ATX, followed by the larger ones, which is the ATX, which are the ones that you see if ASUS has one with the Wi-Fi stuff in. I would recommend you getting a Micro ATX because it's a bit in the middle, and that's what I have. I have the MSI. I have the MSI Z590 Plus. It supports 4 sticks of RAMs, and you can do a bit of cranking up of the RAM, you know, and it will still handle it. So most gaming motherboards, you'll find DDR4 slots of RAM, but also for the more advanced and bigger boards, you'll find they are supporting DDR5 RAMs. If you are choosing to go with DDR4 or DDR5, you need to pick one. Maybe if you want to like switch up a whole different motherboard in the end of the day, but you need to make up your mind. Like, do you want DDR4 or do you want DDR5? The Z790 Plus supports DDR4 RAM sticks, and that's what I have in there. The next thing you need to get your hands on is the GPU. The graphics card is very important if you are doing like 4K and above. Like if you are doing 1080p, come on. Even the entry-level graphics card, they tend to be as powerful as the ones that they have in the MacBooks. You don't need like to break the bank when it comes to the graphics card unless you're doing 3D animation on softwares like Cinema 4D, Blender. You know, and DaVinci can get pretty heavy, but you don't need like to break the bank. Now, the problem with graphics card is there were a time where they were so scarce. People were getting their hands on them when the manufacturer puts out graphics card. They buy like a bunch of them and then they put them in stores and then they later resell them to a higher price. So you cannot like get an actual price of a graphics card like any other component. If you get your hands on a good graphics card, good for you. What I have in there is the RTX 3050, which has 6 gigabytes, and it's from Zotac. It's a pretty good graphics card, you know, for my work. Storage! When it comes to storage, you can either get an NVMe SATA SSD or you can get a traditional can't believe I'm calling it traditional. Or you can get yourself on a normal hard drive, okay? I have an NVMe SSD that is 500 gigabytes, and that is where all my programs are installed and where the operating system is. And I have a 1 terabyte hard disk which I use like to store stuff. Like if I get files I need to edit on, I put them in the hard disk, but all the work is done in the NVMe. I simplify the work for the machine to actually process stuff because it will be reading files from the hard disk. It will be doing all the work from the NVMe, you know, SSD. I recommend you to do that, but I also recommend that you get an external SSD that you are going to be using to edit on board. And if you're like moving from one place to another, it comes in handy. And even if your computer breaks down, you still have your files with you. The power supply. The power supply is like the heart of the computer because it tends to supply electricity to all parts of your computer. You do not want to cheap out on the power supply, and make sure like if you are getting a power supply, it must be 80 plus certified. And 80 plus certified, you have different types of all grades of the power supply. You have the bronze, you have the silver, but also you have the gold power supply. They have different types, like you have the non-modular, which means you can like stick out the wires that come come with it, and like leave only the important wires to be put into your PC for organization purpose. You have the semi-modular, which you can take out some of the wires and some of the wires come fixed in the power supply, and you have the modular, which tends to have all the wires fixed by default, like so. Others you have to like pin them somewhere in the motherboard, but it's all for the organization purpose. Now, if you don't want to explode or burn your computer, make sure like you get yourself a good power supply, because if they are not good enough, your computer can explode, literally. What I have in there is the Upcon Core power supply, 600 watts. It's 80 plus certified, and it's good enough to supply, to power up the machine. Another thing you need is the cooling system. Now, you have different types of cooling system. You have the air cooling system, which is basically just fans, and that's exactly what I got in there, just fans. And you got the AIO, which has the fans but also has a system where it has like liquid included with it, and then you have the liquid cooling system if you want to like go extremes with your computer. Get yourself a liquid cooling system, if you got the cash. But what tends to heat up in your computer mostly is the processor. Now, what I didn't say in the beginning when I was talking about processors is that you also need to have a cooling system for your processor. Now, you need to like buy a separate cooling system for your CPU, but also some cooling systems, they tend to be like for the CPU but also for the case. So on my CPU, I got the TF Thermotech CPU cooling system, CPU fan, like a low budget fan, but it's very powerful and it's more than enough for my CPU. My CPU has never heat up. I play games with it, I edit videos with it, but it has never heat up. I have the Upcon Core case fans that are on the top but also on the front and on the back of the case, but the case also came with one fan. The cooling system is not just for cooling, but it's also a good display. You get a good case, but also you get a good display, good CPU for you. What am I saying? Get yourself a good CPU fan, but also get yourself some nice display. Lastly but not the least, the case. Now, there are different cases out there. You have the mini ITX, you have the mid tower, you have the full tower, and many people like the mid tower because the mini ITX, it's very small and compact. Sometimes the airflow can be not that good. The mid tower tends to support the micro ATX but also the ATX motherboard, and so that is like the sweet spot for everyone who is building. But if you're going on board, get yourself like the full tower. It's pretty big, good airflow, and it's good also for the display and stuff. So those are all the components that you need in building your custom video editing PC. And if you have like $2,000, $3,000, you can get yourself a very nice custom video editing PC that gets you like 4K and above. I edit on this PC with full resolution in Premiere Pro 4K, and it doesn't give me any problems. It does when you do a lot of work in After Effects, because After Effects is never grateful. But also do your research, make sure that the parts that you're buying from different brands tend to correlate or support each other. Like if you have a MSI motherboard, and if you can get MSI cooling system like the MSI fans, get yourself the MSI fans. If you can get yourself RAM sticks that support the softwares of MSI, get yourself those sticks, because it can help you sometimes configure the RGB lights through the apps that come with MSI and Asus, and it can be pretty awesome. But if you have conflicting hardware in there, sometimes the software can freak out. If you made it to the end of this video, thank you very much. I hope you enjoyed this video. Make sure you like, comment and share it, but also subscribe, okay? And check out the unboxing video that's on the end screen annotation and also on the card linked up there. But also make sure that you go out there and create something awesome.